all for attending today. So just to intro, this is the BlueSky Pension Scheme's annual forum. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend about 10 minutes just giving you a bit of a recap on what the BlueSky Pension Scheme has specifically been up to. But then we've got a bit of an ulterior motive for today. What we actually want is some feedback from you guys as well. So I've got a panel here with me, Kim Goobler, Maggie Williams, and the man that has just entered the room, Lee Clayton. And they are going to talk about engagement and how we get members engaged, or if we should even bother getting them engaged. Okay? And what I'd like is your feedback on whether or not we think it's worth it and how we go about doing that. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to start with is the size of the scheme as it is at the moment. So we've got about 33,000 members. I think we're just short of 1,000 employers with 356 million in assets. So that roughly equates to about £11,000 per pot. The reality is that actually we've got a large number of members that joined us way back in the sort of early 90s that have got average pot size around about 25,000, and then those newer auto-enroll members that are in the sort of £1,500 to £2,000 pot size. So that presents its own challenge when you're thinking about communicating. Those with the larger pot size do tend to be a little bit more open to listening, although not always. So a bit about what the trustees have been up to in the last year or so. If anyone came to the last forum, this is what we've been up to with our trustees. It's quite a lot. So I'm not going to go through the whole list. But what I'm trying to make the point of here is that the trustees who meet on a quarterly basis are looking at every aspect of the pension scheme from every angle. So whether we're talking about administration and looking at BlueSky as the administrator, are you doing what we want you to be doing? Are you servicing the members? Are you doing that in a good turnaround time? What's the quality of the information that you're giving to our members? Through all our other providers, people like our investment consultant, is he providing, and is that company providing the service that we want them to provide in a clear and understandable way? Are we moving forward with our thinking on investments? Member profiling, is what we're doing suitable for the membership we've got? That is organic, it changes. The average age, the average pot size, it's all changing, so we need to be thinking about what's right for our membership. Communication reviews, that is going to lead heavily into our engagement piece later. So what's the information we're giving to our members? Is it clear? Is it understandable? Does it meet all the compliance regulations? So doing all this meets best practice. It enables us to have our AAF, which is an accreditation, our Master Trust accreditation, which allows us to sit on the pensions regulators listing as a good master trust, a trustworthy master trust. But what I'm now doing with the trustees is getting them into a routine with this. This is repetitive, we have to go through all these. And if we can get into a routine of doing these reviews, what we can then do is start to think about what does that look like from a member's perspective? What can we do to better the scheme rather than just keep the scheme compliant? One of the key areas that we concentrate on is the investments. It's the core of the DC offering. And I thought it was worth just mentioning as well that we have an investment subcommittee, because all this takes an enormous amount of time for our trustees on a quarterly basis. So we section off a few of them and we get them to talk separately to those trustee meetings and really go through all those performance reports. So I am not going to talk heavily about investments because that's not the messages we're trying to get across today, but I thought it was definitely worth putting on some headline figures about what has the investment performance looked like. So over 3 years, target dates in the red, that's our default fund that we offer to our members, and you can see that reference to the benchmark that we put in place, it's exceeding that. And I think some of the key messages to come out of this are the fact that in order to get those returns, because bear in mind the target date funds aren't aiming to achieve big returns all the time, it's about smoothing that investment journey to retirement. What that shows is that our target date funds have been able to react very quickly to what's going on in the world. So that's our trustees looking at keeping the scheme compliant and what are we going to do for our membership. And we have actually managed to, believe it or not, looking at the very long list of things they've got to do, we have managed to get them to talk about new things to add to the scheme. So the first thing to update is that all of our active members get a £1,500 life cover now. No additional charges. So that is something that Tom, one of our client services managers, has pushed forward. This is active from the 1st of June and all of our members have been written to now. Yeah. So again, we think that makes us stand out from the other master trusts that are around. It's not a huge amount of money, but it is enough in those critical moments during bereavement that they can just have that money within 48 hours to get over those sort of early financial hurdles. We're also looking at our PASA accreditation. So we have become a member of PASA, the Pension Administration Standards Association, of which Kim is heavily involved. And we are now working towards that accreditation so that we can show and demonstrate that we are excellent in delivering administration services. So look out for confirmation that we have achieved that later in the year. Member modeler, so really apt when we're talking about engagement. We have an online member tool called our Member Access Portal, but we haven't had any modelling tools on there, so members haven't been able to go on there to date and have a play around and look at what happens if I change my contribution rates, if I change my retirement age. So Luke's been working with us on this member modeler, so all our members will have access to this within the next month or so, which allows them to see real data on their position. This one's quite a good slide to show you. This is effectively saying to our member, this is where you are now, based on the contributions you're putting in, based on when you're planning to retire. But what happens if you change those parameters? One would hope they'd be changing them to increase contributions, and it would get a sunnier picture. If they're reducing contributions, it's going to get a little bit greyer. But it's a visual engagement of saying, what happens if I pay in some more money? Okay, so it's about giving members the control and in their own time being able to play around and see what the impact is. Because I don't think that any statement that you could ever give to a member could ever show that to them, could ever really convey that sort of message. So that's roughly what we've been talking about with our trustees. But now it's about delving into engagement a bit deeper, because we're sorted. Our compliance is done. We know the process we've got to follow for compliance. We've got our reports and our policies to demonstrate what we're doing. We have now got a bit more time to think about engaging members. But it's a balance. There's a lot of money to engage, so it's about spending it in the right way and approaching it in the right way. So for the next session, what we're going to talk about, starting with Maggie, is does it even matter engaging with Master Trust members? Kim's going to follow with what happens if people just don't listen, what happens if they just continue to be disengaged, and then Luke's going to follow up with how can we utilise the sort of technology that we've got available and perhaps give it a good go.